Day 2 of Afcon is in the books. But before we get into any of that, make sure you're liking, commenting and subscribing to the Kweku Afari YouTube channel. I'd massively appreciate it. But let's get straight into it. Another busy day at Afcon. I feel like I've barely slept, I've barely yet. I've just been on the move constantly. Another 3 games today at Afcon. And I managed to go to all of them. Luckily, they were all in the city of Abidjan, the capital. That's where we're based. A 2 o'clock kickoff, a 5 o'clock kickoff, and an 8 o'clock kickoff. And managed to catch, if not all of it, but most of all of the games. I'm going to go through it in chronological order. Starting off with Nigeria versus Equatorial Guinea. A shock result. That was the Olympic Stadium. Really and truly, no one saw this one coming because Nigeria have got so much firepower, namely Victor Osimhen, who is, by all accounts, the best out-and-out striker at this tournament. Obviously hampered by the fact that Victor Boniface, who's having an incredible season for Bayer Leverkusen, is out of this tournament with injury. But you expected Nigeria to walk this one against an Equatorial Guinea side that have shown signs of being scrappy, but never show signs of getting a result like this against a side as favoured and as fancied as Nigeria. A 1-1 draw, and Equatorial Guinea were well worth that draw. They were dogged, they made life difficult, they made the game scrappy, and frustrated Nigeria. And you can see the Nigerians were frustrated, namely Osimhen, who did get on the score sheet for his side. He equalised. Equatorial Guinea actually took the lead, and Osimhen equalised 2 minutes later in the first half. But he missed a huge chance in the second half to secure all 3 points for Nigeria. And you can see his frustration. It's a different Osimhen when he plays for Nigeria in terms of the burden he has to carry, the player that he has to be, the man that he has to be. It's very similar to Didier Drogba when he plays for the Ivory Coast. He could never quite capture the form that he showed for Chelsea because there is so much pressure. He is the main man. And yeah, that chance, you can see it really affected him. We were in the mix zone after the game and he had his headphones on. He didn't want to talk to any media. You can see he was very frustrated with the result and with his performance. And for his sake, and for Nigeria's sake, hopefully that performance improves, because Nigeria are not going to get anywhere with Victor Osimhen, who's not firing, despite the fact that he did get on the score sheet. Chukwueze came off the bench and he looked like a bright spark for me. I don't know why he's not starting. We've seen how good he's been for AC Milan in spurts. He's a player that can be inconsistent, but Moses Simon's been a fine servant for Nigeria on the national team stage. But I think it's time for Chukwueze to start. And Nigeria's midfield looked non-existent. The injury to Ndidi didn't help just before the tournament, but they weren't passing between the lines. They weren't finding each other. They weren't finding spaces. And as a result of that, they allowed Equatorial Guinea to frustrate them, and that's what they did. And that's the reason why they got a point. It was a well-deserved point. Nigeria now take on Ivory Coast in the game on Thursday. It's a showdown, really. A must-win for Nigeria, because Ivory Coast got their win in the first game against Guinea-Bissau in the opener. And now Nigeria go into this game knowing that if they lose, they've got a difficult time in terms of getting out of this group. Equatorial Guinea take on Guinea-Bissau, which is quite confusing, in their next game, and they'll be buoyed by this performance because they've taken on one of the biggest teams in this competition, and they've given them a run for their money. One thing I will say is the lack of fans in the stadium was a bit troubling. This is the Olympic Stadium, the same stadium that hosted the opener between Ivory Coast and Guinea-Bissau. And there was only 8,000 fans in there, and it's not a good look. And obviously I'm here to shine a positive light on Afcon and discuss the great and good of African football, but you got to call a spade when you see it. And the fact that there wasn't fans in the stadium to watch what was a shocking result, they put a bit of a dampener on it for me personally. Hopefully that changes going forward. Obviously there's loads of factors as to why there wasn't fans in the stadium. Or many fans in the stadium. Ivory Coast played the day before. The fans were partying late into the night, so that's a factor to play in there. It was a 2 o'clock kickoff on a Sunday. We know there's a lot of Christians in the Ivory Coast who are probably at church. But yeah, I want to see more fans in the stadium. That's what Afcon's about. It's about the fans, it's about the vibes, it's about the good time, and you want to see the stands packed out with fans. I actually got the chance to speak to Nigeria midfielder / winger Alex Iwobi after the game in the mix zone, and he had this to say.
Oh, Equatorial Guinea so hard to break down?
Of course, they got the goal that they wanted, and they sat back and defended. And then, of course, the weather had a factor play, so I feel like they knew that we're going to dominate possession, so they they had a game plan where they defended and then tried to break on the counter. But I have to give credit to them as well. They got the result they wanted. You can see how much it meant to them, and you can see how we're disappointed. But there's still 2 games to play, and hopefully we can qualify.
So yeah, those are thoughts of Alex Iwobi. Not a great weekend for him. Fulham lost against Chelsea. Nigeria failed to beat Equatorial Guinea in the game that they were expected to pick up all 3 points. And so yeah, not a great weekend for Alex Iwobi, but thank you for chatting to us. We'll move on to the next game, Egypt versus Mozambique, a thrilling 2-2 draw. Again, in Abidjan, we managed to get a media shuttle bus across the city. It was in the stadium, I think it's called La Felicia. Correct me if I'm wrong down in the comments. And we were on the brink of one of the biggest shocks in Afcon history. Like I said, it was a 2-2 draw between Egypt and Mozambique. But Mozambique were winning 2-1 up until the 97th minute. A soft penalty, in my opinion, was awarded to Egypt. Mo Salah obviously put it away, secured a point for his team, saved his team, really. Because Egypt looked like they were heading for a loss, and no one could have begrudged Mozambique those 3 points because they played very, very well. Like I say, because I was travelling across the city, I only managed to catch the second half of this one. But Mozambique were well worth a point and even more in it. Egypt are in an interesting place, aren't they? They're going through a transition at the moment. It seems like everything's geared to try and get Mo Salah this elusive AFCON title. But it's a weird blend of older players and younger players, and I don't think they know what their identity is just yet. They might warm into the tournament, but I wasn't impressed with what I've seen, especially for a team that got to the final of AFCON in 2021 and only lost it on a penalty shootout, a shootout in which Salah actually missed a penalty, but he put away his spot kick this time around. And yeah, denied Mozambique a famous win. But what I did love to see, I talked about wanting to see fans in the stadium. This stadium was packed, and we saw Egypt fans after the final whistle chanting Mozambique. They know how big of a result this is for a country that wasn't expected to do anything in this tournament. But now, as a result of that positive first result against Egypt, can look onwards and upwards in terms of the rest of the group games, and they know they're playing against a Cape Verde team and a Ghana team that they fancy getting points off of, especially because Egypt was supposed to be the toughest team in this group. Had incredible access, by the way, was behind the goal, pitch side, where Mo Salah scored the equalising penalty. It's just amazing to see a player like that up close. And he's everything you want in a star player. He takes a responsibility. He got a goal and an assist in this game because, of course, he's Mo Salah. And he saved his country yet again. The final game I watched was the 8 p.m. kickoff. It was Cape Verde versus Ghana in the same stadium, weirdly enough. But yeah, a game that I wish I didn't watch. I'm Ghanaian, for any of you guys that don't know. My name should give it away, Kweku Afari. It's a very, very Ghanaian name. Ghana lost 2-1 against Cape Verde. One of the worst results I can remember. One of the worst performances as well that I can remember following Ghana. Just didn't show anything. Didn't show any heart. Didn't show any desire. And Cape Verde were well worth their 2-1 win. They took the lead. Ghana equalised. And Cape Verde scored the winner in the 92nd minute. And they deserved it because Ghana didn't show anything. And I don't know. I struggle to see where this Ghana team go from here. And the worst thing is, Ghana fans who are dialed in and tuned in, they weren't surprised by this result. Ghana have not been great for a while. Chris Hughton was brought in to stabilise the team and bring that experience and nous, but we've seen how good Chris Hughton is on the club level. Obviously, international football's a different sport completely, in my opinion. But he hasn't got to tune out these players, unfortunately. They're not saying that he can't. Ghana are still in an okay place in this group. It's after the first game, and we know that a lot of the best third place teams go through. But the performance was worrying from Ghana. Didn't show any desire, and I think the issue for Ghana is that we're still hanging on to yesteryear. I love Jordan and Andre Ayew, but maybe it's time to move on from those players. I know the records that Andre wants to achieve before he hangs up his international boots, but I just didn't see anything from Ghana that makes me feel positive about the next couple of games that we've got. We've got a huge game against Egypt. I'm saying I'm supposed to be impartial, but we all know that I'm a Ghana fan. Play Egypt on Thursday, which is a massive game. And if Ghana lose that, they're out of the tournament, basically. I know there's maths that can work out for Ghana to still get out of the group, but after the way that Ghana went out of Afcon 2021 in terms of losing against Comoros and going out in the group stages, you thought that the guys would be back with a bounce, but it was just a hapless performance and made players like Bebe. Do you remember Bebe from Manchester United? Unsuccessful stint in the club. There was reports that he was homeless at a point. He's rebuilt his career over in Spain, and Ghana made him look like prime R9. Sorry about that, making me emotional. It was just not a great performance from Ghana. Gary Rodriguez scored the winning goal for Cape Verde. Watch out for him in the tournament. He looked very, very impressive. And yeah, Ghana's just not great. 1 win in 10 Afcon games for Ghana. Just not what you want. Not what you expect from one of the top teams. Sorry, my team making me emotional. One of the top teams in terms of names in the tournament. It's not what you want from Ghana. And as a Ghana fan, I'm very, very disappointed. I'm going to have to stop this video now because my throat is gone just at the end of it. But make sure you're liking, commenting, and subscribing to the Kweku Afari YouTube channel. I'm going to be trying to do more videos more regularly. So I appreciate you guys. If you comment down below, interact with the content. I'll be back with more videos. Day 3 of Afcon tomorrow. Make sure you're locked in. We'll be back very, very soon.